Welcome to this week's Workplace series. We all like to think that we're good at making decisions. I know I sure do. And yet there are times when my decision making is not as sound as I would like it to be. For me, one of the biggest traps that I can fall into is overestimating my capacity. A good example, an invitation for a weeknight, late night event comes through. The speaker looks interesting, the topic looks relevant, and my immediate reaction is, yeah, that looks great. I should go. But then I have to pull back a little bit, have to pause and remind myself, Michelle, you're a morning person. You're not a late evening person. And while you might feel like saying yes now, how are you going to feel on the day? That small pause matters because many poor decisions don't come from a lack of intelligence. They're coming from a lack of perspective. They're coming from a lack of pausing so that you can move from reaction to response. For example, the planning fallacy trap. We can underestimate how long it's going to take to get done. We will overestimate what we can do. We imagine the best case scenario as if it is going to be the likely scenario. We do this with projects. We do it with calendars. We do it with deadlines. And we do it with our own energy. And once we've convinced ourselves that something is manageable, we're then going to look for evidence that supports that view. That's the tricky thing about bias. It doesn't usually announce itself loudly. It doesn't say that it's here, but what it's doing is quietly shaping what we notice, what we ignore, and what we assume to be true. Professor Daniel Kahneman's work reminds us that the brain is not a perfect decision-making machine. It uses shortcuts, heuristics. And look, sometimes those shortcuts can be incredibly helpful because they get us to a decision really quickly. But other times they lead us into those familiar traps. For example, we can anchor on the first piece of information that we receive. We keep investing in something because we've already invested time, money, effort. We can trust our own judgment more than we should. And that's why, if you want good decision making, you need challenge. And this isn't performative challenge. It's not endless debate. It's not people being difficult just for the sake of being difficult. Good challenge helps you see what you're missing. It asks, what assumptions are sitting underneath this decision? What information are we giving too much weight to? And what are the trade-offs that we're avoiding discussing? And then who sees this differently and why? That's important. The best leaders, the most influential, they're not going to silence the dissenters. They're going to notice when dissent is being ignored. They create space for different perspectives because they know that in that space, it's a pathway to better decisions. And you're going to need different angles and different perspectives to get that good decision. Then look at the process. Who needs to be involved? When do they need to be involved? What options have we genuinely considered? And what are we saying no to because we're saying yes to this? Every decision carries that trade-off. And often the decision isn't just about what you will do. It's about what you're going to stop doing, to delay, or let go of. Of course, sound decisions, it takes time, it takes effort. It requires reflection, challenge, and the humility to accept that your first instinct may not be the best answer. So this week, your challenge, pause before that next important decision and ask yourself, who is challenging my thinking? What bias might be shaping my view? And am I making this decision with my eyes wide open? Lots to think about this week. Take care. I'll see you next week.